Hello, Get a Life Podcast Kunai listeners. My name is Joe, as you guys already know, and I'm here once again with my friend Bish.
Hey, what's up, guys? Joe, that rhymed. That was awesome. I like that.
Oh, it did rhyme.
Yeah.
That was totally intentional. And as well as my best buddy Kevin.
Hey, sup, guys?
Wait. Kevin's your best buddy. See how it's, Joe.
Yeah, guys, we established. Well, hang on. We have to settle this before we continue. I'm sorry, Joe, but if you're new to the podcast, right? Way back in the early days of the podcast, we decided that Nagisa was best boy and free,
Yes,
and that I was Nagisa IRL. Therefore, by extension, I am best boy.
Yeah,
on Get a
but
Life
that's not
podcast.
but not
So
best.
Joe's right.
No, he said best bud, not best boy. He said
They're
best
the
bud.
same thing.
No, it's not.
I'm
It's
all-
not.
No, best. You're my best bud. Jacob's my best boy.
Okay.
You're bringing in Jacob. He's not even a part of this podcast. The
I
betrayal.
see how it is. Okay, all right.
Okay.
He's not a part of this podcast, but he's a part of my heart.
Oh, okay. All right, Judas.
But anyway, we are recording today. We are discussing the long-awaited Kaiji Ultimate Survivor episode. But before that,
For you folks, Get a Life Podcast Kuna is a monthly anime discussion podcast under the Get a Life group. But due to the nature of this discussion, we can't afford spoilers on the show to be discussed. So for those shows that are based off of an existing piece of work, whether it's a manga, light novel, or some other media form, we aren't covering the source material, just the show. It can be found on Stitcher, iTunes Store, and Google Play. And if you'd like to recommend a show for us to watch on an episode of Kunai, send us your suggestion on Twitter at GalpKunai, GalpKunai, or by leaving us a review for your chance to win a 3-month subscription to Crunchyroll Premium. If you want to watch this anime and keep up to date with what we watch for Kunai, you can also support us by signing up for a 14-day free trial of Crunchyroll Premium for everything anime at crunchyroll.com/kunai. Alternatively, you can also support us by checking out lootcrate.com/kunai. And if you want to get 10% off, just use the discount code kunai at checkout. Joe?
and for those of you who are unaware of Kaiji Ultimate Survivor, also known as Gyakyo Budai Kaiji Ultimate Survivor, is a psychological thriller based off the popular manga written by Nobuyuki Fukumoto and adapted by Studio Madhouse. The anime is directed by Yuzo Sato, as well as episode directors Hiroyuki Tanaka and Ryosuke Takamura, and ran from October 3rd, 2007 to April 2nd, 2008 to create a total of 26 episodes. Our story centers around loiterer Ito Kaiji, who agrees to join an underground gamble on the cruise ship Espoir after suddenly being held responsible for his friend's huge debt. However, this is simply the trigger that begins his ride into the life-threatening world of illegal gambling, where he must conquer mind games, deceit, and even himself in order to survive. Before we get to all the itty-bitty of the itty-gritty,
Nitty-gritty,
however you
that's
say
what it is.
the nitty-gritty.
Why not both? Okay.
Yeah, why not both? The nitty-itty-bitty-gritty of this discussion. Let's talk about impressions first. What I'd want to know, Bish, Kevin, I want to know what made you guys unleash your inner Kaiji.
This is an interesting one because when you suggested it to me, I was very skeptical because the way you initially described it, you were like, I asked you, was it a horror anime? And you're like, oh, there is some like gory parts and there are some certain themes, and I was put off by what.
Wait, gory?
Yeah, like there are some gory parts. So let's not deny that there are some themes that are mentioned, especially towards the end. The way it was described kind of put me off initially, and when doing research into it, it kind of put me off. I'll be real with you. So then when watching it, I didn't come in with the highest of expectations. I thought that, this was going to be another, something similar to Another, or, one of those kind of horror animes. That's what I assumed. And then going into it, I was pleasantly surprised. I did not like the art style to begin with. It's very jagged and etc. But, I just kind of got hooked. That's all I have to say in regards to my first impressions. I was pleasantly surprised.
Perfectly calculated.
Interesting. Well, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that, you didn't know what to expect. Well, me neither, because in this case, it's not like, there's other shows for Kunai where I've at least heard of it beforehand, either indirectly through friends in real life, or, I've just happened to see some art in my timeline, for example. In this case, I really came in 100% blind. I literally did not know that this was a thing until Joe put it into the schedule. And, a gambling anime, I can't say I've seen anything like it before, right? I've seen stuff similar to it, in terms of media. Like the plot immediately reminded me right away of Casino Royale for some reason. You know, with the gambling and the ship. And all
Casino
that.
Royale.
Yeah, the James Bond movie.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so maybe think of that. And the closest comparison that I can draw to Kaiji in terms of what I've watched in the past would be Yu-Gi-Oh, but that's as we all know, I'm sure, very far away from what it is. The only reason I thought of that is because of the cards in the first arc, right? And the reversals that are happening all the time, you know, when it's like, you activated my trap card.
Oh man.
Yeah, exactly, right? But other than that, I was intrigued, to say the least. It was a brand new concept for me, and I didn't know what to expect at first, but I think overall, it did a pretty good job.
Well, it seems like both of you like were kind of hooked as soon as you got into it.
Yeah.
So, like, what would you say? Well, I mean, you guys were hooked, of course, but like,
Interested to know what your first impressions was when you watched it initially.
it was actually back in high school. A good friend of mine, he watched the show like on a whim, and he fell in love with it. And like, he fell in love with the style. He fell in love with just the plot itself. And like, I'm like, you know what? I'll give it a try. Like on my free time, once I got like all my stuff out of the way, I started up Crunchyroll. I gave it a watch. I was pretty much on the edge of my seat, like initially, like when they introduced restricted rock paper scissors, when you started seeing the game like get more and more intense. It kept me on the edge of my seat the whole time. Like it was similar to how I felt about part 3 of JoJo. And for those of you who have heard me talk about it before, I could not stop watching JoJo. Like I was just watching it back to back because of how hooked I was into it. And like Kaiji was just no exception. Like I just wanted to keep watching it. I wanted to see what's happening next. It was very good with cliffhangers, I'll have to say. Like it always kept me wanting more. And like I'm not sure if you guys felt the same way, but like it was definitely something that kind of kept me going until the end.
Well, I mean, I gotta clarify right now. I wasn't necessarily hooked at the very beginning. I was more like intrigued because I hadn't really seen anything like this before, right? So I just wanted to see where this would go, you know.
Right.
But in terms, I do agree that it does have lots of cliffhangers as to whether or not those are well used or not and stuff. I think I'll talk about that a little bit more when you talk about the story and this way it's structured.
Since you guys like had such interest in the show, like since you guys went through it, would you say there were any moments that stuck out to you? Maybe favorite episodes?
As an anime as a whole, it was very intriguing, and I would have to say that there wasn't an episode where I didn't dislike any episode. I'll be right off the bat and I'll say that. But I would say my favorite episodes were it tends to be the two-parters, right? You know those, well, the whole anime is this kind of one going on, like ongoing story with cliffhangers and such, but it tends to be the second half of the cliffhanger stories, right? So the resolution of the stories tend to be my favorite ones.
Also, you mean the like when they got to E-card?
For example, when they got to the E-card, or towards the end of the steel frame crossing episode, you know, where the wind was blowing and everyone was kind of hallucinating and they got up the glass stairs. That was a really intense episode for me because you got to see all of these characters, some characters from the first gamble involved in this one as well. The guy that he saved from the first gamble was in this one.
Ishida.
And he dies. And it's like, shit, man. It's crazy. He wasted. Effectively, Kaiji wasted those stars. He could have kept those stars for himself and cleared his debts effectively from the first one. But, you know, he felt sorry for this guy. And in the end, the guy died.
I want to take a spotlight, but it actually reminded me of just... I hated how the stars. I hated like how he gave Ishida like his right to freedom. When like after that he just ended up being a huge dick to Kaiji.
I mean, what do you mean by dick though? I mean, I get where you're coming from in a sense, but it's more like he's just a helpless idiot from my point of view. It's just he's an idiot. He came back into it again, but
I don't want to say he was a dick. It was more like he was ungrateful for what happened. Like he kind of just like he ended up. If I recall correctly, he was Kaiji's boss when he was working at a convenience store?
No, that's another guy. I remember being confused about that too, because they do look very similar, but they're not related.
Oh.
The only other person who's related to that store is who dies at the end.
The blonde hair guy.
To the other side. Yeah, right. And who dies because it was rigged by the chairman the entire time. But yeah, those two characters are not the same.
Yeah, that's a confusion there as well. Like
yeah, they do look really similar, but No, the way I saw it was just that Ishida was, I don't know, he's like this 70%er in the sense that he doesn't really do anything on his own, right? He's just kind of following these other people. In the first game on Espoir, like, he's just trying to going along with this other dude's gamble, right? And he's betting everything on that. And the second time, he's not doing anything on his own. He's just following Kaiji around, right? And hoping Kaiji's gonna save him from this nightmare. It's not that he's a dick or he's a bad person. He's just not a very strong character, the way I saw it.
As to what I was saying, especially with Ishida, it's like it's very interesting because he wasted those stars on a guy that's effectively gonna die, and he didn't use anything with those stars. In the end, the guy, instead of keeping his freedom, he went back into the gamble and ultimately lost. And in the end, Kaiji kind of lost, you know, in a way, in some odd way. He didn't really get any payout from that, you know, with the ticket. He didn't win any money. He didn't get his debts cleared. So it's that episode meant a lot because it was like, shit, man, this guy died. He had a wife and kids. Not only did this guy die, the guy he was working with, who was really like he has so much gusto and etc. And it was pretty much everyone died. It felt like this really odd situation. It felt like kind of like Danganronpa in a way, but it was like this sadistic version where everyone dies, and that got me. But that's why it was such a great episode. It was one of my favorite episodes because of the shock factor, and that got me hooked because I wanted to know how the hell is Kaiji gonna recover from this? How can any human being in his situation can have the mental capacity to recover from that in a sane way? I was intrigued.
Well put, Bish. What about you, Kevin?
Yeah, I gotta agree with him here in the sense that you didn't say it explicitly, all right? But for me, I have to say I prefer the second arc, that is with the human tumble, and the e-card, and the paper tissue game. I prefer those gambits a lot better than the first arc when they were all on the ship, honestly. I felt that dragged on a bit too long.
I agree.
But yeah, the second arc is really a lot more intense too. It's just better in every way, in my opinion, because like just episode 12 particularly stuck with me because it was a deliciously dark episode. Okay, and normally, you know, this type of anime, they disturb me, so I kind of like steer clear of them. But it was really well done, right? Lots of tense moments, right? And you can really feel the tension between the characters, right? Where they're really having to face this dilemma. It's like, do I push this other person off of the fucking beam so I can win the game, or do I risk getting pushed off myself, right? So
yeah,
very morbid, you know, like Zero Escape or Danganronpa feel to it, and I really enjoyed that, right?
Well, I mean, it's very realistic. It's kind of like what I really like about like those scenes you mentioned. They're very realistic. It's like because in the end, like, you don't really want to kill anyone, but at the same time, you're forced into a situation where like you have to do what needs to be done.
But you know, it's not just killing for your own survival. It's killing for money, or potentially disabling someone for life for money. It's not for survival. So it's interesting in that sense because it shows how society is kind of run by the overwhelming need for money and materialistic objects.
It's a gamble in itself.
What got me even more was the fact that it was not televised, but it was shown in front of people as like this game. Like the rich people were kind of betting on who would win, who would fall, etc. And it just puts it into perspective. It's a very kind of philosophical in a way. It just shows how, you know, there are certain hierarchies and stuff, and how certain levels of human life are valued more than others in this world that we live in.
For me personally, yeah, the philosophy aspect of it is something I really enjoyed, but I gotta disagree. Like, it depends on what part of it you're talking about here, because I found that the personal struggle in this, in the sense that, you know, they had to make moral decisions while playing the game, was the most interesting part, right? The whole debacle about, you know, oh yeah, society is ruled by the rich 1%, and if you have money, you have power, blah blah blah. That's all, you know, it just, to me, yeah, that's true. But it's been said so many times before that it sounds so cliche to me. Whereas the moral aspect of it, right, where they're being forced to make these,
but they're not. Realistically, they're not being forced. It's because it's not like life or death. Like, they're not saying you're gonna die if you don't think. It's a gamble at the end of the day. So they're actively making that choice to push each other for money. It's not a decision they were forced to make by any means. I because it's not a life or death situation. I can't see myself personally being asked to do that for money. There are some people that would do that, but I mean, I don't think, because it's not a life or death situation, I don't think they're actively being forced. They are making that decision based on what I would do if I won this money. My debts would be cleared.
They absolutely are, because they're putting in a situation where either A, you don't push and you are pushed yourself, right? Or B, you're not going to be the first one there and you're going to sink even deeper into debt, right? So they're not forcing them to, push anyone or to not push, but they have to make a decision regardless. They're put into a spot where they have to decide. Right? You can't just be idle, right? You can't just choose to not play the game once you put your bets in, is my point.
Cohen does have a point. It's like they decided that they wanted to do this, so like there's really no turning back in that regard.
But it's kind of that weird catch-22, right? It's like, for example, within Danganronpa, like every Danganronpa game has this, where it's like, guys, we're not going to participate within the killing games. Like they all,
and then someone ends up killing.
And someone ends up killing. Is that kind of thing? It reminded me of that.
Exactly.
So like they're psychologically pressured, is what you're saying. Yeah, like that's something that's very prominent throughout Kaiji. It's just like putting pressure on everyone to make these different decisions and affect their actions, essentially.
Joe, I wanted to know what was your favorite episode of Kaiji.
My favorite episodes were actually from E-Card. Because it was just like there wasn't anything like extreme about it. It was Kaiji versus Tonegawa, and they were playing E-Card so Kaiji could win money and Kaiji could bet like something as valuable. And I just really liked the mind games during those few episodes. Just Kaiji, like them, because it was only 3 cards they had to use. There are 3 types of cards that you could use so that you could beat your opponent. And yet it becomes something much deeper when you think about the greater scheme of things. Because it's stops becoming a card game and it becomes more of a psychological game. So you can see how your opponent's reacting and like what you think they'll do based on what you witness. And like it's also like what also caught me off guard was that it turned out that Tonegawa was cheating. And like Kaiji didn't really know what to do until he decided, like, you know what, I'm gonna cut my entire ear where the mechanism is and basically destroy any chance he has at cheating. And that just kind of blew my mind. I'm like, he went as far as to cut off a crucial part of his body just so he could beat this game. It's like, on the other hand, it's very foolish. On one hand, it's very foolish, but on the other hand, it's very respectable because it just shows how much he wanted to win. And I think those, without a doubt, stood out more than anything before that.
Yeah, I gotta agree that in that personal aspect of the E-Card arc, there's a lot. It stands out a lot more to you than the previous 2 arcs, simply because, honestly, it's just Kaiji versus Tonegawa. It's a one-on-one. It's very personal, right? In this case, he's like fucking pissed, right? Because he just won the Human Tumble game, right? And literally everyone else has either died or has been severely injured, right? So he's the only one. He hasn't gotten the money that he's promised, right? So it's a very personal conflict with Tonegawa, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I feel that in the prior arcs, right? Especially Espor, again, I keep on fucking trash talking Espor, but it was like, I feel like Kaiji, he was being weighed down by some weaker characters, right? Like Ando and his co-worker, right? And E-Card, and especially the face-off with the director at the end, those 2 were particularly tense.
Yeah, with Hyodo.
Yeah. Although, yeah, E-Card definitely takes the prize for me, simply because, yeah, they both involve mind games, but the difference is E-Card, no, it was more than just drawing out of a box. It was a more elaborate scheme, right? And there were more twists and turns, in my opinion, to the E-Card arc than to the shoebox.
Like, you don't really think that like a game where you only use 3 cards would be very, very tense, but like then it gets much deeper and it becomes like a lot better as a result.
I'll be honest with you, because the game is quite simple, there is more opportunity for those mind games because it is such a condensed thing. But the very interesting thing that I actually really loved about the E-Card kind of block of episodes was the fact that, you know, with each episode, you kind of got more excited for Kaiji. You're like, shit, man, Kaiji lost that one. Now he won this one. And the anime does a great job of getting you pumped for every time Kaiji wins, or you know, feeling very like shitty every time Kaiji loses. Like, for example, when he won the 20 million yen, it was a very good, like, exciting thing for me. Like, I genuinely got happy and I was like, fuck yeah, you know, yeah, Kaiji, you do you. Do you know what I mean? It was just very thrilling, and I think it's kind of like the same thrill, or maybe probably something similar to the thrill of gambling, right? At least that's how I felt. It's like you're getting the thrill of it's diet gambling, right? You're getting the thrill of gambling, but not by not gambling.
Is that what they call it? Dahi gambling?
On the topic of the gambling, like the mind games, in my opinion, are like the highlights of this series, right? You want to watch it mainly because of the mind games and the back and forth, right? On the flip side, however, there's another element in gambling that you simply cannot remove, and that is luck, right? And I think luck, unfortunately, sometimes Kaiji just flat out wins because he's lucky, right? And that just it's you're relieved that he wins, but at the same time you're disappointed that it was so simple, right? Because I noted this particular moment in way back in episode 3, where I don't know if you guys remember when they team up with Ando and Furuhata, right? And it's their first match against another opponent, and it's the balance guy. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The guy whose strategy is to balance out his 3 types of cards, right? And I just found it like the pseudo strategy that they tried to use and the reasoning they tried to use to explain how Kaiji managed to win it honestly felt like BS, and it just felt like chance.
Wasn't explaining like gambling wasn't really like a big part about gambling is like reducing the amount of chances there are for luck. I think they mentioned that.
I understand that, but it's like it's literally just because this is Kaiji's chain of logic. So he looks at the guy and he's like, okay, the guy is calm. He has a calm demeanor. That means that obviously means that he's a balance kind of guy, right? And from that, he's like, okay, so I know that he played rock and scissors beforehand. How Kaiji knows that dude played rock and scissors in his last 2 matches, nobody knows. It was never explained, right? And using that logic, Kaiji's like, aha, so that means that if he's played rock and scissors beforehand, he only has paper left, and I only have scissors left, so therefore I'll win, right? So it's like, it's based on this like really fragile string theory, right? And even the narrator acknowledges it, because he's like, Kaiji's leaving his destiny in the hands of this fragile reasoning, right? To create tension. But the problem is that, for me at least, when I was watching that, is that A, the reasoning was basically boiled down to luck, and 2, yes, it's tense, but you know that he's going to win. There's literally no way he's going to lose because this is just episode 3. So that early on in the anime, there was not enough tension for me, because I was like, realistically, nothing's going to happen to him. He's not going to die, right? Or else there wouldn't be another 20-something episodes, unfortunately.
Well, think about it in the sense that, if you're watching this, you don't know how many episodes there is initially. Because obviously when we're watching for Kunai...
It's such a stat. You never really know if Kaiji will be the protagonist throughout the entire show.
There are some games and some anime where you think the protagonist is one certain character, and it turns out to be a completely different one. Joe, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
So it's you that one game has taught me not to be kind of assuming that the protagonist won't die or not. So
I've been in a similar situation, right, where you think the protagonist is one person, but it's actually another. But the thing is, let's be real here, guys. 99% of anime or shows are not like that, right? So it's just, and even if, okay, say that he was the protagonist, right? This is episode 3. What kind of show would it be if it built up this character and his followers for 3 episodes and then killed them off?
Yeah,
and then
you would be very surprised,
right?
because the game we're referencing done it within the first couple of minutes. So yeah. But as I was mentioning, let's not talk about that. As I was mentioning in regards to the card games and etc. What I really loved about eCard was the fact that you kind of rooted for Kaiji. He was winning, he was losing. You're like, shit, man, what's gonna happen? The thing that surprised me the most was that he decided that he's gonna gamble afterwards. So after he won his 20 million yen, which is like $200,000 or something like that.
Yeah, 20 million. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is, so I don't know how much his original debt was 3 million. So let's say 4 million yen, which is about like $40,000. So 40 grand US dollars, and he ends up getting 200,000. Why would you? For me, I was thinking, why the fuck, man? He doesn't need to worry about his debts anymore.
Try to challenge the director?
Yeah, why would he challenge?
I was asking myself the same question, and I was, quite frankly, at that moment, I literally paused the screen. And I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. Okay, you're a fucking idiot. Just walk away with this money, you dumbass. Like you're. and he pays for it too. So I was like, I fucking told you so, right? Because
exactly so. And the thing is, he's gonna end up tripling his money. He gets if he won, he would have got almost $1 million, right? Which is a lot of money.
Yeah.
200,000 is also a lot of money considering that your debts was about 40 grand. So to me, it seemed like Kaiji was throwing away, like effectively doing it on purpose, probably for the thrill, because I don't see he would need that $1 million, right?
He does explain why he went through with it in the end, because remember, he's not going into it blind. Initially, when he posed that gambit to the director, it's because he had rigged the game and was planning on winning, like, on the second turn, on his first draw, because he rigged it, right? So he's like, oh yeah, I'll just make a lot of money really easily and just, say fuck you to this director and kind of avenge all the people who had suffered and died during the course of the game, right? That's his point of view. Yeah. Although I agree with you that it was stupid because, like, that was his plan only worked assuming the director is a complete idiot, which he knows the director isn't, right? And would have fallen for his tricks. And so it's just a huge lack of foresight, in my opinion, that I was like, you know what, you kind of fucking deserve that in the end, Kaiji, because you had a chance to walk away, making a profit, and, just putting all of this behind you, but in the end, he went for more money.
Well, you also have to consider he did all this because he wanted to help those that sacrificed themselves too.
I know, but the thing is, let's be real here.
Like his gamble was foolish, but his intentions were pure.
But what did he get from it? Like, he lost an ear.
Yeah, I'll say it right now. Intentions don't mean fucking shit, okay? Like, this entire...
Whoa.
No, but I'm serious here.
Wait a second. No. You can't say his intentions were shit when he was...
Let me finish. I'm saying intentions don't mean shit, alright? And if you think so, you haven't been paying attention to the other 20-something episodes of the show, because that's not the message they're sending here, alright? Like, we already brought up Ishida earlier, right? Where he decides to be the virtuous angel and saves Ishida from hell itself and years of manual labor, right? And what does he get for it? Ishida goes right back and he squanders everything and dies. And then again...
Yeah, but that's not a problem with intention. That's just being too trustworthy.
Yeah, but that's being trustworthy to the point of kind of being an idiot, Like, if you've gone this far in a game where people literally die, right? And you've gotten fucked over in the past for being too nice and thinking that, the world is this magical place where good intentions or the good guys win all the time, then you kind of, and if you haven't learned that after having survived 3 different death games, then maybe you kind of deserve what's getting to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, at that point it was really a matter of like trying to being trustworthy towards like everyone who survived the balancing game. It was just more like it was out of his own kindness. He wanted to help everyone.
I get that. I perfectly get that. You should be a good person, but it's just within this context when...
But I do understand what you're trying to say. Like, it's actually good you mentioned this because, like, something I like... Like, I don't think of Kaiji as a protagonist. However, that isn't exactly a bad thing, in my opinion. It means he's a little more realistic than other protagonists I've seen in some anime.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, like, somebody who does everything good, like, who stays true to his ideals until the very end, and he gets everything good out of it.
Is that not what he tries to do, though? Because in the end, he doesn't get everything good out of it, but he still tries to the very end to be a virtuous person, and he gets fucked over for it, right? At least at the end of the first season, right? So I don't know if I'd agree with that, because yeah, maybe it's not a happy ending for him, but he still tried again and again and again to be the quote-unquote good guy, and ultimately he gets fucked over consistently every time for doing so.
Well, no, like, he's very... I don't mean, like, in that sense. That's, like, I hope you're not taking it like that. I mean it more like he isn't a protagonist in the sense that he's a little more human. Like, he feels more emotions than just like selflessness and kindness. He also feels anger. He also feels regret. Like, he also, like, he feels like more emotions than I've seen in like many protagonists in like a lot of shows that I've watched. Like, he reacts to everything in a very human-like manner. And, like, there are times where he just wants to give up. He doesn't want to do any of this. And, like, he keeps going.
Yeah. He is human after all. He has his flaws, admittedly.
Yeah, he has a lot of flaws, and that's why I don't see him as a quote-unquote protagonist. But in the end, that's not a bad thing.
So you don't think of him as a white knight stereotype where he's completely virtuous and he's fearless all the time and all that. Is that right? Okay. In that case, yeah, I'd agree.
I don't think of him like that, to be honest. I think of him kind of like, I don't want to say Kodaka from Haganai, but in a way he is. And I will explain. Because to me, he kind of stands off as like, yes, I'm a Keiji and I know, or Kaiji, and I know everything. I know how to deal with the situation. In fact, I can beat the main guy in the tissue box situation. I think I can beat him. He's not better than me, etc. But in the end, he doesn't know what he's doing. As you mentioned, he relies on pure luck, kind of like Kodaka, in a sense from Haganai. Like, you see him as this guy who knows everything, he knows relationships and stuff, and then he clearly doesn't, and he's a fucking idiot. That's what Kaiji is to me. He's just a normal guy. He's a normal idiot.
Yeah, no, that's the point I think that Joe is trying to make, Bish. Like, he's not some extraordinary hero. He's just some dude. He's
the
just
funny thing is, they
guy.
call him Ultimate Survivor. That's what the anime says, at least in the title.
Well, yeah, because he's a normal dude who happens to be put through these extraordinary circumstances, and he survives. So, I mean...
Yeah, well, I mean, just because he's considered the ultimate survivor doesn't mean he's, like, a white knight, as Kevin said.
All right.
Like, ultimate survivor simply means that, like, through the experiences he had, he was able to triumph over these different life-threatening games. Because, like, in the end, he's lucky to have, like, escaped with just an ear and his fingers. Like, he could have died during the second game, but he was able to surpass that.
Yeah, but at what cost, right? He's even further in debt again for the third time, and he's lost an ear and he's lost a finger, or four fingers.
He lost fingers on one of his hands. Can't remember which hand.
That's where it gets really interesting. Like, I understand what he did when he chopped off his own ear and stuff. That was like, shit, yeah, man, that was kind of heroic in a sense. But the fact that he agreed to kind of bet the fingers, sorry.
Yeah, because he wanted to go the extra mile. Like, that was another flaw he had. Like, although he wanted to get more money so that he can save everyone who suffered during the last game. Like, he ended up biting off more than he could chew, and he underestimated Hyodo.
Yeah, I think that we can all agree there. He stuck his head out 2 more inches, and he ended up losing his head, for all his troubles.
I'm pretty interested in talking about the character design, because this is a point that I really want to bring up in regards to the character design of the show. What did you guys think? Because I know, personally for me, when I was watching it, I was turned off by character design. With the whole pointy chins and really thick lines that they were drawing with.
Did this persist through the entire show, or did you warm up to it eventually?
I'll be honest with you, on the first couple episodes, that's all I could see. But then obviously the scenery and the way that the show was presented, you forget about the art style very quickly. That's for me, right? And not just that, there was a bunch of other different things that were coming in terms of the characters. It was kind of odd. It was like, Kaiji's got this big nose and he's got this kind of, it seemed like a kid drawing, no offense, it seems like a kid drawing like a character in kindergarten.
Well, I mean, it was probably designed like that intentionally.
Maybe, I don't know, but
or maybe it's just the artist's art style. It's definitely close to the manga, like, yeah.
But at the same time, even I've never seen an anime that has like really thick lines like that. Like, it looks kind of like a manga in that sense, but in terms of the character designs, the characters are very varied. But there are some characters obviously that look pretty much similar.
Yeah, the side characters notably, like Furuhata, Ishida. If you notice, I don't know if you guys noticed, but what stuck out to me is that like the Kaiji has a very distinct, extremely pointy for whatever reason face, but all the side characters, right? If you look at Ishida and you compare him to say Furuhata, the nose structure is very similar. The head is like this rectangle with the corners rounded off, right? So everyone else is really samey.
There's only one normal face, and that's when they show like the only girl in the anime at the convenience store.
You know why they did that with Kaiji? And I'll give you a reason.
Yeah, to make him stand out.
To me, not only to make him stand out, but there's like this kind of trope within anime and manga, like the protagonist or the senpai will have a pointy chin. Like, that's how they do it, right?
Oh, you mean like how the protagonist will have like that weird hairstyle and like the red dye? Like, oh my god.
Exactly, yeah. Just to make them point out and to make them stand
I
out.
can't really say. I know what you're trying to say, but I can't agree with that 100% because, like, she was the only one who had, like, a normal style. Everyone else, like, even if they were side characters, had, like, a special style to them.
Well, to be honest, like to me, Kaiji and Tonegawa, the main guy, the guy in the e-card thing, his character design was, I felt like I wanted to throw up when I was looking at him, because he had these weird boils on his nose, and he had like this kind of bulbous Super Mario tomato nose.
Wait, so out of all the characters that you could be disgusted at, you're disgusted at Tonegawa? Like, honestly, I would understand if you said, oh my god, the director is disgusting, because that's what I would say, okay? The director is fucking filthy. I just cannot stand the style, alright? Because I get they're trying to make a villain and make him look ugly and shit, but he's just, like, on a whole different level where it's like, I can't look at the fucking screen at the same time as he's on. But Tonegawa, I found, was nice.
Which one are we talking? Because I'm...
We're talking about Hyodo. Hyodo, the old man. The
yeah,
old
that's
man.
the guy I was
No,
talking about. Oh shit, no, Tonegawa was a different
No,
guy.
you're talking...
My apologies.
Yeah, Tonegawa was the e-card guy. He's not the director.
No, sorry, my apologies. I'm
okay.
talking about the director. I got the names mixed up. The director makes me
Alright.
feel really
That
sick.
makes sense.
His skin is like gray, and it's like, why does he look like that? What made him? What circumstances does he have?
I think that's up to interpretation in the anime. He's like, where did he
think
come from?
It's really just part of the design to send you the, like...
It's then to send you the message that he's from hell itself.
The guy gives me the creeps, man. Like,
I mean, that is the point, right? Just in shows in general, they make the villains stand out with dark colors, and they make them look unpleasant naturally, just to, symbolize, hey, look, this is not your hero, okay? Quite the opposite. They're the villain, right? And they look the part. But again, I just find that he's too disgusting, it's like, that's not even a face a mother could love.
no, exactly not. No, yeah, you're right.
It's ironic because it was the art style. It was the art style that was one of the factors in making me watch the show.
What the hell, Joe?
I actually really, it was very different compared to what I've seen before. Like, it looked so weird. It looked so, like, insane. Like, I'm like, and like the emotional expressions, like when they're crying, like when they're upset. Oh my god! Like the style really bring those out. Like, especially the crying. They looked like crying sacks when like they got upset.
I like those kind of graphics that were on the scene. They were
Yeah,
pretty
I
good.
like those.
Like, it added another level to the anime. Like, it kind of took out of the whole depressing nature. Like, there was some jokes, etc., and it took you out for a second, and it was like, okay, I know there's all this depressing stuff going on, but here, have a gag. I enjoyed that, because I think if that wasn't there, the anime would have gotten depressing to a point where it's like, I don't want to continue watching, for example. And there have been shows like that before.
I guess I understand that, but I don't know. But what I didn't hate Hyodo's design. I was disgusted not because of his design, but more because like the way he acted and the way he acted towards Kaiji just felt like he was the devil incarnate. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you knew, like, looking at him, you knew that this guy was like somebody you shouldn't mess with in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, apparently Kaiji didn't realize that after, being in the same room with him for like a good, 2 hours, but...
In the end, he was naive. Like, that's what made him lose his fingers.
One thing that I do want to kind of go on is, do you think it would have been more interesting if Kaiji decided to go for his eye as opposed for the ear?
It actually would have been interesting, because if he was going to go through the same the same plan they did with his ear, then like removing his eye would have just been...
I don't know if it would have worked, actually, because the whole point was to cut off the ear so the piece comes off, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you had to remove his eye, he probably would have died.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
While we're on characters, we talked about the director, we talked about Kaiji, but I cannot, in good conscience, let this conversation end without mentioning Tonegawa, right? Because I got excited for a bit when you're talking about him. So I know he's a villain, but I like him a lot more as a villain than the director, honestly.
I
The director
agree.
I did not like too much. Director is very one-dimensional, where it's like, yes, I'm evil, I like people suffering, hardy.
He's
It's very
basically
cliche villain.
Dr. Evil from
Yeah, exactly.
Austin Powers, right? The
Whereas
stereotype.
Tonegawa, yeah, he's an asshole, but there's at least a reason behind it, right? one scene that stands out to me, in the human tumble, right, where he's watching all of them trying to cross, and he's commenting on how they're like trash, right? And he's like, yeah, you'll never get to anywhere near to where the observers are, the rich billionaires who are funding all of this and who are placing bets, right? And he's having a bit of a social / philosophical commentary, right? So that makes him a bit more human as a villain than the director, but also I think when I gained the most respect for Tonegawa as a character was when he loses the e-card game, actually, and he's forced to bow down to kowtow on the hot plate.
I'm surprised that didn't kill him. I'm very surprised it didn't kill him.
I was like, mad fucking prop.
Didn't he subtly agree to in the end? Like, he was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm gonna do this and take it like a man.
Yeah, exactly. So he took responsibility for it. So he's still an asshole, right? He's not someone you want to hang out with, but
he's respectable.
Yeah, he's respectable, and at least he's not a typical one-dimensional villain like the director is, or at least as we know him at this point, right?
It was interesting, especially the fact that he decided to go through it, because then it shows he has some sort of level of respect, as you mentioned, and kind of morals. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's very respectable. But I was just very confused as to how that didn't really fuck him up.
He's just a badass.
Even his, if I'm not mistaken,
he's just a fucking badass.
That's another thing. His clothes, I don't think his clothes got charred.
Yo, because, you get what you pay for, right? And he's a classy motherfucker, so, you think he goes with that cheap shit? No, man, he's Tonegawa.
No. He doesn't shop at Walmart.
Classy shit. Yeah, exactly. He's not trash. Right?
That is a loophole on that one.
I just have to say, I really liked. I do agree with Kevin. I like Tonegawa was great. I liked Hyodo a lot too. Like you guys don't seem to have like very favorable impressions of Hyodo, but yeah, because I liked his mysteriousness. I'm like, where did he come from? Like, what was his past like? Like the fact that he was able to win a game so easily that was like rigged to begin with.
To me, he's basically Dr. Evil from Austin Powers. I'm gonna say it again. He's just a big trope.
I asked the same questions, Joe. I did at some point wonder, because he did appear in the first arc on Espoir, right? So I was like, who's this dude, right? What's his past like? But towards the end, you realize that there is no fucking backstory to him. His backstory is that hardy har. I just like seeing people being in like life or death situations, because it gives me like it gives me thrills. It's thrilling, right?
The funny part is that he also gave Kaiji the opportunity to win.
Yeah.
Like, that was something that was like it was very humorous to me, but at the same time, it's like also sad because Kaiji like missed the opportunity, and then Hyodo won immediately.
Well, obviously he's doing that as a tease, right? Because as you mentioned, he does take a thrill from these kind of sadistic kind of situations. So
yeah, he's very sadistic. Like, that's a good way to put it.
I mean, I'm not saying he's the worst villain ever written. I'm just saying he's meh. And, Tonegawa, he's a secondary villain, but I don't know, I find that he's
a stronger villain.
Much more satisfying as a character than as the director.
I completely agree with you. I want to mention one of the side characters, and it's the guy with the blonde hair. His name is Sahara, which is an odd name.
Yeah, Sahara.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about him? Because I'm kind of torn between him. Because at the beginning I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, Sahara, yeah, man. And then
he's like Kaiji's he's like the bro that Kaiji never had.
He's the Yosuke, effectively.
Fine, so I need you guys to explain that to me, though. Why are you torn exactly, Bish? Why did your opinion change?
At the beginning, I really liked him. And then, because I was like, this guy has some sort of drive. He's really motivated. And then towards the end, you saw when he was dying, right? He was like, he's being a pussy, right? He's being like, oh man, I can't handle it. It was getting to him. It was getting to him, even though...
It also made the situation very realistic.
It did, but I mean, like, it's not like I didn't want him to die,
I don't know
but
if you can really reproach someone for that, though, considering the situation he was in, Bish. Honestly, I can't say I understand.
It kind of fucked me up. Do you know why? Because it was like, the guy is effectively creating a persona for himself. That isn't true. At least, what's his name? Ikeda or I forgot his name. Ishida. At least Ishida, like, we know he was a coward, right? Like, it's stated from the beginning, from the get-go. You know Ishida's this coward. You know he backs away from these sort of situations. But with Sahara, I thought he was going to be more like sidekick. Yeah.
I think I'll be quite frank here, Bish. I think it's more so your fault than the show's, because honestly, we can say the same thing about Kaiji. You know, oh yeah, Kaiji's, you know, he's really brave and he's a badass and all that, but even Kaiji has his moments where he's like, you know, scared shitless. And well, Sahara, you know, yeah, he's very brave and stuff. And he is until the very end, and I'll tell you why that changes at the end, because let's be real, any other contestant, including Kaiji, if they were in that position, they would have reacted the same way, because he thought that, you know, he fucking made it, right? He beat the game, he made it, and then he slowly realized, you know, the reality hit him that it was rigged and he was gonna fucking die. So can you really blame him for, you know, for changing personalities in that instant? No, you can't, because you'd have to blame Kaiji too. Kaiji has those moments as well.
I understand that, but for me it was disappointing. The fact that he died in general is disappointing. Do you see what I mean? I wanted him to be there, like towards the end, and to see how he would have dealt. Obviously, if he didn't have died, then we wouldn't have the E-card situation and we wouldn't have the final gamble, right? So
he was a Yosuke that turned into a Jerry.
But it was like, you know, I like that bro kind of character. I really enjoyed that. Especially, I kind of felt like Kaiji needed this sidekick. And Sahara was a perfect sidekick, but he had to die. R.I.P. Dicks out for Sahara, you know?
I can see why, but honestly, Bish, it just seems to me that you're just salty that the character that you liked didn't make it.
I am salty. I'll be honest
with you. I get that. I'm laying down the truth, Joe. Jeez, like, what, you want to fucking talk about Kaiji and talk about, you know, how the world's pretty and filled with flowers? No. Like,
do you want a Gojo Brony?
You gotta be savage, right? It's a savage topic.
Whoa, Jake Paul, you gotta be savage.
No, but I'm serious though. Like,
realistically though, yes, I will admit to that. I'm a bit salty about it, but I understand why they did it, because without his death, ultimately the show wouldn't continue.
Exactly, yeah. Like, I understand that, yes, I was kind of disappointed as well, and there are plenty of situations in shows where, you know, you're really rooting for a character, or, you know, you're really rooting for a ship, but it just doesn't happen, and it just dies in front of you, right? Well, it sucks, but it's just, that's part of the story, it's part of the show, right? It's what it is. Not everything goes the way you want it, or else it'd be so boring, right? Why would you even bother watching, you know?
Right.
But I think that we talked a lot about the characters that we really liked.
Yeah, we did talk a lot about characters, didn't we? Like, I'm glad you guys have such deep thoughts on these different characters. I like how you've been analyzing them. So
Could I close on two characters though, really quickly? So we like you said, Joe, just now, there are a lot of characters that, you know, that really are divisive, right? You're either for or against them, right? Like the director and such. But one thing that I have to hold against the show is some side characters were just so bland that it's unbelievable. Like, again,
what side characters are you referring to?
Ando and Furuhata. Like, I swear 90% of their lines is literally just Kaiji-san. That's all they fucking say. It's like, no, but I literally have it written down in my notes here. Like,
Senpai, notice me.
Yeah. Have you guys watched Bleach? You guys know about Bleach, right? You know Orihime and how she's like, Ichigo-san, right? And that's her thing. That's what people make fun of her for. Well, this is the same fucking situation, because that's all they say. Like, Kaiji will get riled up and he'll go on this stupid cliche, like, friendship speech and how we gotta stick together if we want to survive this and stuff, right? And they literally start crying. They're like, Kaiji-san! And I'm just there and I'm face palming because it's so stupid, and I'm like, these characters are so dumb. They're not really adding anything to the story.
But isn't that a good thing in a way? Because the people, it kind of puts it into perspective that the people that are gambling are dumb people. Do you see what I mean? Like, that's how they got into this mess to begin with, right? Because they're dumb.
Not all of them. Yes, there are idiots, but then again, there are the people like Kaiji, right, and Tonegawa, right, who are there just to fucking make other people miserable and to make profit off of this, right?
But the majority are dumb people, and they're taking advantage of them. That's why this whole thing exists, right? Because I
understand, but like, they could have made them interesting dumb characters in the least, right? Like, I think that, you know, Ando's and Furuhata's betrayal would have been so much more impactful if they were more fleshed out as characters, right? Because let me tell you, when they betrayed Kaiji on Espora, I was like, I fucking told you so, Kaiji, you fucking idiot. Like, you should have expected this, right? Instead of feeling like, oh my god, Ando Furuhata, I'm so disappointed that they decided to backstab Kaiji, right? Instead of being like disappointed or really passionate about it, it's more like, I knew it was gonna happen, right? So I think that had these side characters been more fleshed out, like moments like these would have been more impactful, right? They would have been more meaningful. Those are just my 2 cents. I don't know what you guys think of these side characters.
You're saying it wasn't like as impactful because you didn't know enough about the side characters.
It was just they seemed like cardboard cutouts, right? I'm just personally disappointed in those side characters. I don't know whether you felt that they were adequate, but I really was genuinely disappointed in them.
I can see what you mean. Yeah. Like I mean, they weren't the best characters for me. Like I wouldn't say like they really stuck out to me. But I mean, I kind of liked what they offered to an extent. It's just like you said, they should have been fleshed out more. Like I didn't care about them that much. Like after Espoir. Like after that, I kind of just forgot about them. So yeah. Anything else you guys would like to add?
That's it, really. We've covered the entire cast practically. I know that's noteworthy anyway.
Especially the director.
No, the director isn't noteworthy. It's just his stupid nose, like
his Super Mario nose.
His nose, like
his Super Mario.
Yeah, it's a Super Mario nose, but at the same time, it's like
he looks like he has STDs on his nose.
No, but like what genres do? I'm not fucking kidding, guys. Like his nose, it's like a fucking. There you go. It's a squash. It's like someone glued a squash, like the plant to his face. Right, and if you look, you don't even have to look closely. Actually, it's so disturbing on close-up shots of his face, right? Because you can see that squash-like nose. But what's even more disgusting is that they're like these Mike and Ike shaped like purple fucking spots on his nose.
He has herpes on his nose. That's what it is. It's the herpes.
Oh my god!
Did you fucking have eggplants on your nose? Like what the hell happened? Right?
I hope there's art of that exists.
Oh no, John.
I mean, there's already art of, like, a freaking Kaiji wiping somebody's eyes with the tip of his nose.
Stop. You gotta stop.
You think I'm kidding? Like, that exists. It's the funniest thing.
Do not link it in the chat. One thing that I really want to get into is the audio. Personally, for me, the opening and ending, I really enjoyed them, particularly the opening. Not so much the ending, and I'll say why. The opening reminded me of this kind of grungy British rock band, like like the Arctic Monkeys or something like that. It seemed like a band that would be playing in a pub in Camden somewhere. It felt very British, like it reminded me of that. So it was very compelling to me. I enjoyed.
For those of you interested in the song, the song is called Mirai wa Bokura no Te no Naka, which is based on the Blue Heart song of the same name by according to this, Kaiji with Redborn Cherries.
If I'm not mistaken, and that's an actual song that's just been reused for this animation, or was it created for the animation?
And to be honest, I didn't actually look too deep into that. That's actually a very good question, but I do know it's based off of like another song. And did you like the ending too, right?
I like the ending, but it wasn't as compelling as the opening. The opening was more. I felt at home.
Like it riled you up.
Yeah, it riled me up, and I felt at home mainly because it's some stuff I've heard before. It's very British in an odd way.
I gotta say that like I'm in the exact opposite situation as Bish because for me honestly, I guess just because it's the first time that it's the first thing you see in the first episode, right, is the opening, and you see Kaiji's face and stuff, and just the art style stands out a lot in the opening, but for some reason, I just did not warm up to the art style and just the OP in general until very late into the season. It's just the music, I mean, it got you pumped, but just something about the ending, just, when he screams at the end, I just didn't like that for some reason. Yeah, it was full of energy, but I just rubbed me the wrong way. Whereas the ending, I gotta say, it was, I don't know, just the dude's voice was nice. The ending was nice.
It was very soothing, wasn't it? It just kind of calmed you down.
Yeah, exactly. It calms you down, because it usually ends on a very tense note, and the ending calms you down. I'm not saying the opening is bad. It's just not great. It's not bad. It's kind of meh.
I know. Well, I really did like the first and second, and like the opening and the ending themes. Like the ending theme, I will say I liked more than the opening theme though, as much as the opening theme riled me up as it did for Bish. Like overall, they were just both really good in their own right.
One thing that for me personally, in terms of the other OSTs and things like that, it didn't stand out. Like I can't remember a particular theme within the soundtrack of the anime that was like, oh wow, this is amazing, we'll listen to it on repeat. It was generic to me personally.
Fair enough.
It did build suspense at points, but I mean it wasn't something like, oh hell yeah, I'm gonna listen to this.
I am disappointed that nobody has mentioned the most iconic sound throughout this entire like anime.
And what would that be?
When they were like sawa.
Oh yeah, okay.
I did not like that sound, honestly.
Screw you too, Kevin.
It was okay, but it made me feel awkward. It made me feel like people were watching me as I heard that sound. It's a bit creepy.
I mean, I didn't think of it as creepy. I just like it was very fitting. Like it was actually quite the opposite for me. It was very fitting for a lot of like the tense scenes when it was like I don't remember what my friend told me about like Sawa's meaning. I don't remember if it even has a meaning to begin with, but I know like it was used to create a sense of suspense.
Now imagine this. Imagine you're taking an MLG piss, right? And you hear that sound. Would you not be freaked out?
Well, I'm taking a piss and I hear a random sound. Of course I'm going to be freaked out.
And that someone whispering that in your ear, that would fuck you up.
It's just a weird sound in general. I mean,
I'd be more scared of the fact that there's somebody in my bathroom like whispering that to me while I'm peeing.
What if you can't hear? What if you can't see them, but you're hearing that sound? That's what I'm saying. That's why within the anime, I felt freaked out when I heard that.
I fail to see how this relates to what we're talking about.
I don't know. That's the first thing that came into my mind when I heard I just imagine I'm taking a piss and I'm hearing that sound.
Well, maybe that was the intent. It's kind of like it's supposed to like make you feel like there's no hope. They did feel paranoid at those moments. It's like they didn't know what was going to happen next, and like they were worried something was going to happen out of nowhere.
What Joe's trying to say, Bish, is that the show fucking played you like a game, and you didn't even know.
Yeah.
You got played. No, the Sawa sound, I didn't really take note of it, because the only fucking thing that I could think of every time there was the Sawa sound that came up was... I don't know if any of you remember, what was that game called with the frog that shot the balls out of its mouth? Was it Zuma or Zumba or whatever? From PopCap Games.
Maybe that's some deranged game in Canada. I've never heard of that.
No!
Are you talking about Hungry Hippos?
No, it's... Okay, you know the guys who made Plants vs. Zombies, right?
Oh, it's a video game. I thought you meant this is a board game. Okay.
No.
PopCap?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay, yeah, now I know what you're talking about. Yeah. The one that shoots balls out of his mouth?
Yeah.
It's a puzzle game, isn't it?
It's a puzzle game. With the Mayan sounds and shit. Like, that's what I was thinking of when that music came on. I was like, what the fuck is it doing in here? But regardless, I think that we can agree that... I think we can all agree that that is not representative of the soundtrack.
Imagine... a quick question. Okay, imagine your #GetBishLade. And as you're doing that, you're hearing that sound.
Oh my god.
What would you do? What would you do? That would freak me.
Is this gonna happen now? Like what if Joe was busy playing through like the bonus bows in Danganronpa V3, and like suddenly you hear sawa.
That would fuck me up.
What does this have to do with the conversation?
I don't know, man. Bloopers.
Yeah, Bish, just I don't know if you'll leave this in the final episode.
Bloopers.
But I hope you do, because instead of putting typical music like we usually do in our normal episodes in the background, you should just put a loop of Joe saying Zuma. Like constantly in the background, right?
No, I can't have that.
Yes.
That would fuck me up, man. Imagine editing that. Anyway, one other thing that I really want to talk about is the gripes and grumbles, and this is the meat and potatoes for me. It's not. I love the anime, and don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of things that need improvement. And there's a lot of things that I feel didn't quite work. And one of those things for me was the structure, particularly the way the anime basically made episodes out of nothing. Like, it got me. Particularly, I'm referencing the first 3 or first 4 episodes. Those
Are
events.
you saying like when it slows shit down to the extent where it's like it's unbearable?
Exactly.
Or...
And not just that, but the fact that you can make a lot of you can probably fit them into like, there was like 6 episodes.
I have a paragraph prepared for this. Or
Okay.
some notes prepared for this.
Alright.
Can I lay the smack down?
Sure.
I have the perfect fucking scene to exemplify this. All right, and this is just such a good case of them drawing shit out needlessly. All right, because you feel that at many points in the anime, it's like where this could have been done in like 5 minutes, but no, they stretch it out to like 20 minutes. Yeah, like okay, so for example, one moment that stuck out to me. All right, because I watched it twice. All right.
Oh, you liked it that much?
I fucking no. It's just because like for those of you who don't know, we actually were supposed to record this a while back, but I had to rewatch the anime to record this, and I literally took fucking timestamps the second time through because I just couldn't believe how annoying it was. So at the end of episode 23, right, where he challenges the director to his new game, right, and the director's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna impose 3 conditions, right, and the third condition is that you wager your 20 million and your 4 fingers, right? So that's how it ends, right? So it's yay, it's all tense and stuff, you're hyped up for the next episode. You go into the next episode, episode 24, you get through the OP, you're like, alright, let's get this shit started, I'm pumped. And then for 5 fucking minutes, okay, for 5 minutes, they recap the end of the last episode. So they basically re-explain that, oh yeah, Kaiji's in a life or death situation because now he has to wager.
Sorry, what episode was this
his
again?
4 fingers, 23 and 24. So my point is, the first 5 minutes of 24 is just recapping the end of episode 23, but even slower and in more detail.
It's interesting because that actually, in term, I'm looking at the release dates. I thought potentially, when especially when I watched it, I thought, okay, maybe there was some sort of hiatus for a couple of months before they released the last 3 episodes. But there was a week. There was a week. It was just 1 week. So it was like March 18th and then March 25th. So literally, it was a week.
It feels like filler, right? But it goes on, okay? It goes on because after they're done recapping and they start the new content, okay, what they do is instead of, logically just starting the fucking game and getting one of them to put their fucking hand in the box and draw out a goddamn lot, what happens after the recap is that the director has a conversation about oh yeah, Kaiji, even if you win this $100 million, you're still gonna squander it anyways because you're gonna be like me. You're going to be.
Well, I mean, that's a plot. That isn't part of the recap.
I know it's part of the plot, but it's so meaningless to me, right? Because oh yeah, you'll be exactly like me, the villain, right? Which is
It doesn't necessarily add to the story, right?
Yeah,
it's more Doctor Evil moments, which yeah.
So they do that, and then there's Kaiji starts fucking praying, right? And all of the eliminated players who weren't in the room before come to join him, right? And then there's like the animation with a Grim Reaper and Kaiji picturing himself losing his fingers, and it's stuff that like we've already seen or that feels needless, right?
Or stuff we were going to see as well.
Exactly. And then the director finally puts his hand in the box to start the game, and they spend 2 whole minutes on Kaiji being like, "Oh, please don't draw the winning lot. Please don't draw the." And they go on like that for 2 fucking minutes.
I'll be honest with you, Kevin. When I initially watched this, I actually skipped those episodes because I was like, "Fuck, man, how long is this gonna take?"
What?
I skipped.
What?
I skipped parts of those episodes, not the whole episodes, right? But
You're a piece of shit.
But on my second, because I watched this a second time as well, on my second time, I did watch it in its entirety, and I do agree with you, Kevin. It's painful to watch.
I understand. Like, I'll be clear right now, okay? I understand that, yes, it's important. You can't just jump into things blindly. You need time to develop characters, right? To develop the mind games that this entire show is built off of. But there's a fucking limit, right? Where it's, okay, you're going slowly to add tension, but then after a while, if you take that too far, you lose my interest because I'm not, like fucking panicking anymore. I'm getting frustrated at how fucking slow this shit is and how needless so much of this, so much of the episode feels.
I completely agree, and I would want to extend that to the first couple of episodes as well, in regards to the whole game, the card game, the rock paper scissors game. A lot of that episode, I believe. How many episodes did they spend on that? Or was it like 9 episodes? Like almost half the anime was spent on on one type of gamble, and it was like, fuck,
That
man.
was the weakest part of the anime.
It was the weakest part, and for me, it was like, dude, you could have done this in 4 episodes at best, and it's.
I'll play the devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Rich. All right. I don't think the problem is the length of that arc. My problem with the arc is the way that it was handled. Because if throughout those entire 9 arcs, I had a sense, as a viewer, I had a sense that the plot was actually advancing, I would have been
No, that's what I'm
completely
saying.
fucking fine.
It's advancing so slowly, and they dragged it out over this many episodes. They could have done the same effectively within 4 episodes. That's what I'm trying to say. Or at least add something to it and make sure that the plot is advancing to a significant point within those 10 episodes, which they didn't do. That's the point I'm trying to raise here.
I can see that, right? But that's a problem, I think, in my opinion, that applies to the entire show, not just the first arc. What makes the first arc stand out to me is that, yes, okay, it's going slow, but it's not as slow as the e-card game, for example, or as the tissue box game. The problem with that is that it's not so much the pace, because I can watch slow anime, right? I've watched Ergo Proxy, right? Where there are literally entire episodes in Ergo Proxy where the story does not move a fucking inch, but there's, to compensate for that, there's character development, there's a world development, right? Or for example, Blast of Tempest, which you've watched. You remember there's those 3 episodes where they're literally standing at the fucking beach, right? And Hakaze is dead in the past on an island, right? And there's this that confrontation, right? So there's 3 episodes in the same exact setting, but the way that they made, that they structured the conflict, there was a sense of progression that, they're slowly inching their way towards success. Whereas,
well, I mean, the reason I was silent this whole time, I was like thinking about it. Like, you guys made some very good points that I'd never really thought about until now. But but at the same time, I also kind of get what you're saying, because like that's why I didn't mention much of restricted rock paper scissors. It's like, although I liked like the idea of it, and like as much as I liked each match, I will admit that it dragged for a very long time.
Yeah, but what's more frustrating than the length of it is just that, for the first 9 episodes in that arc, it's like Kaiji and company, right? They come up with this brilliant idea to win the game, right? And then 2 episodes later, it's like, oh, lol, get fucked, kid. That strategy got destroyed by someone else, right? So it's like they come up with an idea, and then it gets destroyed 2 episodes later, and they come up with a new idea, and that gets destroyed. So there's no sense of progression, because they're back at square one over and over like 4 times in that arc. So it's frustrating to watch.
I saw that as more of like the show trying to tell us something. It's like it basically, no matter what they did, they would always be at square one in like whatever tactic they like in like a game like restricted rock paper scissors. Like tactics like those won't exactly work. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
It's like the sort of symbolism. Like there's a lot of symbolism within Kaiji.
Yeah, perhaps you're right. Maybe that was needed to send a message.
I don't know. I don't think it is, in a way, that the fact that they're sending a message, because there's so many other opportunities to send a message. Why would they do it in such a way like this and actually waste resources?
I mean, I'm not excusing it because of its symbolism. I'm just saying, like, it's like, although it maybe could have been shorter, maybe like instead of 10 episodes, it could have maybe been like...
Definitely could have been.
Maybe like 6 or 7. Actually, maybe 6 is a little stretching. Maybe like 7. Like they could have portrayed like what they wanted to portray within that time frame.
I'm interested to know, Kevin, particularly with you. Do you have any other grumbles? Because that was the main one that I had in regards to
my main grumbles were just like as you said, the slow pace, but also the just the cyclical structure and the lack of a sense of progression in the first arc. And lastly, I guess just. It's a more minor gripe. Like I said, some of the side characters were kind of flat, but definitely the 2 main gripes were related to the story. Really, I feel that with this show, the story, and the whole premise of mind games and of gambling and of the danger, it's its greatest asset, but at the same time, it's a double-edged sword, because there are moments when when Kaiji does not have you at the edge of your seat, you're like fucking falling asleep because things are just going at a snail's pace.
Do you think that it would have been beneficial to cut the season down and condense it? Have all of these events take place in a shorter season? Potentially, maybe instead of 26, maybe 20 episodes, maybe 18 episodes.
18 is stretching it, I think. Like from your suggestions, I'd say 20.
Yeah, I think somewhere around the 20 mark would be good because, again, length isn't so much as a problem. It's a lot of my gripes are directed at the first arc because the second arc, if you think about it, the first arc ended at what, episode 11, 12, right? And it went on to like episode 20 something, right before the start of the paper tissue game. So that arc was like roughly the same length, but in that
I thought it was a little more than 12.
Yeah, wait, we're talking about first arc or second arc?
The second arc with the beam game.
Yeah, so second arc is just as, if not longer than the first arc, except you actually feel engaged and motivated to continue because there is a sense of progression.
You didn't get to the third arc in 12 episodes. You got to it a little, I thought it was like 15, 16.
No, because remember, he gets betrayed and stuff around the halfway mark, and then he goes again with his Hara to the human tumble around the episode 12, 13, right? And then finally, the last 3 episodes are basically the paper tunnel.
They start E-Card around episode 16, and then, episode 16. Well, I mean, it's introduced in episode 16, then episode 17 is when it really starts.
Okay.
Yes.
Never mind then, maybe I was mistaken. In my head, it always seemed that the human tumble was just as long as the Espor.
Well, I mean, Human Tumble's a little smaller. Like Espor, because Espor was like setting the stage.
The Human Tumble deserved more time.
I feel like it will have suffered more. I feel like it will suffer with more time. Like it will suffer from the same issues that you guys just described.
I would say that the Human Tumble was good as is with its current. With its actual length. I find that, honestly, if anything, right, if I hadn't watched this show for kunai, I probably would have dropped it during the first arc because the first arc was so unbearable. Right? I'm glad I didn't because the second and third arcs are enjoyable, but the first arc
I didn't expect to hear you say that.
No, but it's true. Like if you look at, the first season, right, and its highlights and its best moments, in my opinion, you find those at the end. The first arc, it's okay at best and frustrating at the worst.
That leads me on to another point. Do we want to see a second season? And I want to hear from Joe first. I really do.
Wait, well, I don't know how to answer this. Wait, do I want to see a second season?
Initially, when you watched it, because I know you've seen second season.
If the question is, did I want to see season 2 as soon as finish season 1, then the answer is obviously yes, because I absolutely loved Kaiji. But granted, I couldn't see season 2 straight away because I was busy with schoolwork. But
the motivation was there.
Yes, the motivation was there. So as soon as I had the free time, I watched the show immediately. And after watching it, I'm not going to say much because this is obviously season 1 discussion, but if season 1 made you panic, then season 2 will make you sweat. And I say this in the sense that if Kaiji season 1 made you go on the edge of your seat, then Kaiji season 2 will make you fall face down.
All right. For me personally,
and also, I'm sorry, Bish.
Oh.
And the opening is made from one of my favorite bands, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Alright. Personally, for me, would I want to see a second season? Initially, when I watched it, I would have said yes.
Oh wow! Did it really change that much? I remember you. I remember you going up to us and being like, "Guys, Kaiji is like the shit." I remember you being really hyped.
I was seriously hyped, and then on the rewatch, I don't know. There was a lot more time to think about it, and usually on kunai we don't watch the anime more than once. But obviously because of this time, etc. We were supposed to record it before Kevin left, but obviously we had this time to think about it. Your thoughts tend to settle, and you're like, shit, man. I don't want to watch a second season of Kaiji because of the first season's ending. I don't want to know what happens to Kaiji in the second season.
But why do you not want to find out?
I felt disappointed by... This is personal, right? I felt disappointed by the ending, and I was like, okay, he should have made these decisions, and instead, I feel that it's going to be more of the same. It's going to be more of the same.
So you feel
Kaiji-
that he'll make the same mistakes again?
He will. It's definite. It's for definite. He's probably going to lose
So
his
you're
dick. Like,
so are you assuming are you assuming it's going to be more of the same, and that's why you don't want to watch
I'm
it?
assuming it's going to be more of the same. I haven't seen second season, but looking at how
What, would I recommend looking at a synopsis?
No, I haven't seen a synopsis. I
I
haven't
don't
seen
know what else
anything.
to
But
say.
I'm presuming it's going to be more of the same.
I mean, my lips are sealed. I can't really say anything.
So because of that, I'm not excited to see a second season. Initially, I was, because obviously the hype, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, man!" It was such a great ending. But then, when you see it again a second time, it's like, damn, it's not as good as I initially thought. It's a good anime, and no doubt, it's a good anime, and it's just the second season doesn't seem appealing, because looking at the first and the problems with the first, usually a second seasons of anime either
Well, I mean,
improve.
if the problem is with the protagonist himself, then that is quite a problem indeed.
Well, let me put it like this. Of course, I'm not going to spoil it, because like that's not something I want to do to you for season 2. But let's just say that season 2 doesn't start out the way you expect it to. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Kevin, what about you?
For as long as I can remember, I've always been either like yes or no when it comes to what I watch second season. Here, I will be completely honest. All right, I did enjoy Kaiji, but it has its ups and downs. I would say that I'm open to watching the second season. Would I actively like put it on my to watch list right now and try to find some time during my break or whatever to watch it? I don't think so. But, if, a friend was like, hey, Kevin, you want to watch Kaiji Season 2 together? Or, if I had extra time and I was bored, would I watch Season 2? Yeah, sure, why not? But, there's some issues with the first season, like just the pacing, right? And the way the story is structured. There's just those glaring issues that kind of make me have doubts with the second season. Alright, so it's a maybe for me, honestly. Although I'll have to say that I'm neutral on Kaiji Season 2, but one impact that it did have on me is that it sparked a bit of an interest in me when it comes to gambling anime. Because I don't know if you guys have heard about Kakegurui. Right, it's a new.
Oh, I've heard about that, but
it's also about gambling, right? So I was like, because I've been hearing people talk about that, right? And the reason why I even bothered to look at it in the first place is because I watched Kaiji, right? So even though Kakegurui, Kakegurui, I'm neutral on a season 2. I know that one exists, so it's kind of pointless to ask whether you want a second season to be produced or not, but. I might watch it. I'm just not gonna watch it in the near future. I'm just happening.
Here's the thing, guys. I'm speaking like to everyone listening to this. I'm just listening to Bish and Kevin talk about this, and I'm just here laughing.
Are you laughing at my opinions, Joe?
I'm being
That's
condescending.
not very nice.
No, I
nice,
respect your opinions. I'm just being condescending. It's like they don't know what's coming to them.
Well, that's foreshadowing, Joe. So let's not do that. Yeah, would we recommend it to a friend? I don't know. This is something I would say if you're interested in the kind of gambling genre, or if you're interested in the whole death game genre, like Danganronpa, Persona, stuff like that.
And Danganronpa.
Danganronpa. Let's not forget Danganronpa. If you're a fan of those
how could you forget Danganronpa?
Oh yeah, let's not forget Danganronpa.
Let's not forget Zero Escape as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, yeah. If you're a fan of those kind of games and that kind of anime and stuff like that and those genres, you would enjoy Kaiji. That's my opinion. But if not, then I wouldn't recommend this to someone, especially someone who's new to anime. This isn't the thing that I would go for at all. Personally, this isn't the thing I would usually go for anyway.
I sort of agree with you, Bish, in the sense that I wouldn't recommend this to anyone new, but I don't know whether I'd say that because you like... Okay, I can't speak for Danganronpa because I haven't finished playing it, but for as a Zero Escape fan, right, with a similar-ish premise with, life or death situation and it all being a game and stuff, I don't know whether I'd say that because you are a fan of Zero Escape or similar games you'd necessarily be a fan of Kaiji, simply because, yeah, the premise is the same, but the way the story is handled, okay? Again, I'm going back to that gripe. The way the story is handled is different.
I mean, I don't think we should be like comparing it to any other forms of like anime or games. Like, I think it's more like if you're into like psychological thrillers, if you're into like mind games, gambling themes, stuff like that, you would appreciate Kaiji.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's very difficult though, because there isn't that many gambling anime, right? So that's why I didn't say that specifically.
Right. It's just like it's also like it's a nice how do I say it? It's a nice entryway into a gambling anime.
Gamble responsibly.
That's not something you usually want to say. But
yes, and the disclaimer: gamble responsibly.
The moral of the story is never bet four fingers and $20 million for some stupid shit that, you know, when you can just walk away with $20 million.
That's how it is, man. That's Kaiji, my man Kaiji. Jeez. Yeah, I just want to wrap this up. I think that was a great episode, guys. But the next episode of Kunai, the next episode of Kunai is my suggestion, and it is Sakin Imoto no Yosu ga chotto okashi da gai. Which basically it's recently my sister is feeling unusual. It's an anime which is the reason I suggested it is because it's a gateway to Oremo, because I'm interested in doing Oremo, but I want you guys to be prepared for Oremo. So this has similar themes to Oremo, so it's slightly different to Oremo, but this is like the taster, the aperitif.
Well, I mean, I'm optimistic about it. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, so it's also available on Crunchyroll, so you guys can go and join with us and go and sign up for your 14-day Premium Plus. I believe it's a Premium Plus free trial of Crunchyroll. 1080p ads, the ad-free, 1080p ad-free. You get special offers on the Crunchyroll store, etc. And you can go and check us out on iTunes. Leave us a review and you could be in the chance of winning a 3-month Crunchyroll Premium code. That's pretty badass, I'll be honest with you. It's also big thanks to our other sponsors of this episode, which is Loot Crate. Remember, you can save 10% when you sign up for Loot Crate using our link, lootcrate.com /kunai, and using the code kunai at checkout. So it really does help us out a lot. So yeah, I think before we end, I think we should say where we are, what Twitters and stuff. Kevin?
All right, so where I am, I'm in Canada right now. If you didn't know that, that's a new addition to the ending. But
well, you're in Montreal now, so you're in a different part of Canada. Let's not.
In a different part of Canada, exactly. But if you want to contact me on Twitter, all right, tell me how shit my opinions are or waifus are. I can be reached at Tolvray, TOLVRAIE. So no longer the old username, is at Tolvray now.
All right. Well, I live in New Jersey, so you can guys already tell what my life's like right now. If you want to gush with me about Danganronpa and more Danganronpa and most likely Ace Attorney, you can message me or mention me at Kibo Gamer, spelled KIBOUGAMER, and maybe for once in my entire lifetime I'll actually pick up Twitter. I mean, I'm being completely honest. Like, I see. Don't worry, guys. Even though it may not be as active as I used to, I still see your love.
Joe still sees the love. And for me, obviously, kind of like Kevin, I have changed my Twitter account. Before it was at Get a Life Podcast. We've used that now for the original Get a Life Podcast, so you guys can interact with us more there. I got my own personal Twitter account, which is at BishLovesMish. It's that simple. One word. Yeah, you can go and check me out there. You can talk shit about my waifus. Don't talk shit about Nico though, because that's gonna hurt me a lot. Don't talk shit about Nico. It's gonna hurt me a lot, man. It's gonna make me really upset. Also, you can go and contact us if you'd like on our website, which is www.getourlifepodcast.com. podcast.com/kunai. That's our official website. You can go and check us out there. Yeah, I think that's the end of the episode. See you guys.
And also, if you
Whoa.
Very important
Before
thing.
we leave, there's a before we leave.
As we mentioned, you can contact us on Twitter, obviously, to tell us what you thought about the episode. But another thing you can do is leave a review on iTunes or Google Play. We're always looking out for what our fans think, so any feedback, honestly, would be really, really appreciated.
Exactly so, because not many people realize this, but when you review a podcast on iTunes, it really does help, not only us, like in terms of feedback, but it does help in terms of rankings and things like that. So we're trying to incentivize you guys to leave a review, whether it is positive or a negative review. We take all of the comments on board and we try and improve the
It also
podcast
helps
based on
us
that.
so that we don't mention the reviews at the very end of the podcast when we're about to sign off.
Well, we mentioned it at the beginning as well, so
Yeah, yes. And also, one last thing. If you really want to hurt Bish's feelings, just trash Chiaki and Nanami.
no, don't do that, please, don't do that, Joe. Anyway, talk to you guys later. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, see you next time, guys.